All of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.
We're going to call this meeting to order of the Greenfield City Council, March 28th, 191st regular meeting at 7 p.m. in the Greenfield High School cafeteria. This meeting is being recorded, videotaped, and broadcast. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify me at this time. The recorder. Clerk will do a roll.
Councilor Sund? Here. Councilor Burson? Here. Councilor Alice? Present. Councilor Pythram? Councilor Dolan.
Here.
Councilor Gilmore.
Here.
Councilor Wheeler.
Here.
Councilor Mayo.
Here.
Councilor Lanovich. Councilor Mass.
Here.
President Renault.
Here.
Vice President Ricketts. Here. Councilor Stemple.
Present.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Okay, we're now going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. This is voluntary. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the February 14th and February 20th, 2019 City Council meeting?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Could somebody please pass me the public comment? Thank you, Mick. A couple things, because this meeting is so packed. Yay. And well, this isn't too bad. Oh, sorry. Forget that. We're really glad that you're here. Forget that. So, I was gonna say that the comment would be 2 minutes, but because of the amount of people signed up, I'm gonna keep it at 3 minutes. Please, no applauding and no booing, just because if folks get applause and other folks that don't get applause, it feels a little alienating. Same for when the councilors are speaking. There'll be no sharing of your time allotment tonight. One person, one time slot. Please be mindful of the other people speaking. Sometimes we can't hear them, and it's important for the folks in the back to be able to hear folks. Please, when you get up to the mic, make sure that you say your name and your address and that you speak fully into the microphone, again, being mindful of the people in the back of the room. And when you hear the cell phone beeper go off, if you could please wrap it up whatever sentence you're on, that would be, that's easier than me having to interrupt you, but unfortunately, I will have to interrupt you if it goes too far beyond the 3 minutes. And then afterwards, the auditorium is open for folks to go into if they want to go in, to let somebody in the auditorium out who is signed up on the public comment form. So first up, we have Pam Kelly. And you get, Pam, could you put the microphone on? Press the button.
Does it work? Yeah. Oh, Pam Kelly, Spruce Street in Greenfield. What I wanted to say is that I've been on the board of the Nolambika project for about 10 years. And we have the legal ownership of the property that's across the French King Highway from the contested property site. We're a little closer to the Connecticut River. And there has been stuff in the newspaper about Nolambika project and the contested site and also what we stand for. And there's something that I would like to add to that, is that David Brule, who's chair of Nolambika project, is also the facilitator for the U.S. Park Service Battlefield Grant Study. How many of you have heard of the Battlefield Grant Study, or you know about it already? On the board, just one person. So official Greenfield, as far as any evidence that I've been able to see, has not been really interested in the vast historical resources that are a treasure for this area. But Montague and Gill are very interested. And we are wasting an opportunity because we're not valuing the 10,000 to 12,000 year old history that Native Americans have here. Now that's older than the pyramids. And we have the evidence of that, not only in the measurement of bones, but also artifacts. And thousands of pages of research that actually Howard Clark has put together over many years of work. So the Nolambika site is not just about burial grounds alone. It's about an unusual history that is located in Greenfield, and we should be valuing, treasuring, and evidencing in a public way. So now Isaac has talked, and my counselor is Brigitte Alice, have talked about the development of that site with Burger Kings and McDonald's. And I just don't see it. That is a site that at one time was very rich historical treasure land, but it's now been mined right down to the water level. So what I want to know is, does Greenfield want to be known as the home of the fast food joints? Or does it want to be known as a historically treasured site, deeply valued? So I would like to see a new library, and I'd like to see it offer some space designed to honor Greenfield's ancient Native American heritage, the way that heritage values wisdom and points the way to a sustainable future, so that we turn away from this old version of development that's fast food joints and fast restaurants to a new vision of what development is like, a sustainable future that really harkens back to an ancient way of looking at sustainability.
Pam,
And-
the 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
You just couldn't hear the
So-
go off.
Yeah, I appreciate your vote. Brigitte, I'm hoping you'll vote for the new library.
Thank you. Paul Jablon.
I'm Paul Jablon from 73A Fairview Street. The City of Greenfield, and especially the City Council, is at a decisive moment in time. The members of this council can continue to be the two competing factions that have represented two factions of our citizenry for past decades, or work together to find a vision for the future of Greenfield that incorporates the best of each. Last year, I saw every member of this council work together to restore a large sum of money to the school budget. Tonight, you have an opportunity to again work together on even more important and far-reaching proposals that will affect Greenfield for generations to come. This can be the beginning of a new era for Greenfield's politics and the growth, caring, and prosperity we all so desire. There is no public building in our city used by more people on any given day or week than our library. Its services are vital for adults, teens, children, for women and men, and for rich and poor, especially for the people least able to buy their own books, internet, computers, or even magazines and newspapers. In addition, over 300 free programs were offered last year, but this colonial times building has been insufficient to meet our needs for decades. We now have the opportunity to build an energy-efficient, healthy, accessible building with sufficient space and facilities to last for countless generations. To not take advantage of the state grant to do this work rather than pay for it all by ourselves later on would be simply fiscally irresponsible. Thousands of your constituents, a clear majority, have contacted you and said they support this project. Over the past month, another proposal that might open the opportunity for more economic development was brought forward, saying it would take more than a new library downtown to attract new businesses to Greenfield and increase our commercial tax base so there would be less burden on our real estate taxes. The zoning changes for the French King Overlay Zone and the modification of the MDR might allow businesses to find Greenfield more welcoming. This should be a defining moment in the modern history of Greenfield. Previously, two factions of the council would stymie one another, but today we can have the beginning of a new era where compromise and common sense prevails and brings not only the council, but all the citizens of Greenfield to have a more cooperative community spirit and vision. I implore each of you, the members of the council, to vote yes for the new library and for the zoning compromise, but especially for the spirit that will permeate our city when our citizens hear that you have accomplished this task. Thank you.
Thank you. David Singer?
Good evening, councilors. What I'm about to say, you'll probably hear a couple of times tonight, but it doesn't make it less important. My name is David Singer. I live at 41 Grinnell Street in Greenfield. Tonight, you have a great opportunity. You have the opportunity to vote yes on the library and the zoning changes related to the French King overlay and the MDR. You have the opportunity to follow the will of a clear majority of the citizens of Greenfield who want you to vote yes on the library and yes on the zoning changes. And most important, you have the opportunity to bring about peace in Greenfield and put the past to rest, and in so doing, begin a new era for the present and the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Roxanne Wiedegartner.
Good evening, councilors. Roxanne Wiedegartner, 85 Hastings, Greenfield. I'm here to restate that I support and want Greenfield to have a new library. This is a good deal and not one that will be repeated anytime soon. Call it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity tonight to give the people of Greenfield a state-of-the-art, energy-efficient, accessible library that will last us another 111 years, just as the other library has done, but is now long past its prime. Approving it can be part of your legacy as councilors. Not approving it can also be part of your legacy as councilors. While I have reservations about the zone changes before you tonight and the process by which they have come before you, as I've stated, I'm willing to take a chance on them for now in favor of your positive vote on the library. So I ask you, please take a chance on Greenfield's future. Vote in favor of this library. Thank you.
Thank you. Pete Brown.
Hi, my name is Pete Brown. I live at 24 James Street here in Greenfield. When I first started attending these meetings was last time we were talking about the French King Highway. I didn't like the idea of opening up for development then. I don't like it now. I don't like the idea of on-the-fly changes to large-scale development regulations. I don't like this compromise. That said, I am a political realist, and living in a community with a lot of other people is all about compromise. This compromise may not be my ideal solution. It's not what I would pick if I were ruler of the universe, but if this is what we need to do to move the library along, then I can get behind it. The library is a great resource that will benefit everyone who lives in this town. And I would ask all of you to support the library. While I'm up here, and having watched this collective conversation over the past couple years, I want to say one more thing. I want to know what your vision for the future of Greenfield is. I've heard over and over at these meetings what we can't do, about what we can't afford, about all the things we need to cut, about all the things that are wrong with Greenfield, and about how great things used to be. I love Greenfield. I love living here. I love that my kids are growing up here. I'm excited about Greenfield's future. You are the elected leaders of this town. I want leaders who share my excitement about living here and about the future of Greenfield. If you don't have an answer to my question, if you don't have a vision for the future, if you don't know or aren't thinking about how we can move this town forward and don't have hope for the future of Greenfield, then I would respectfully ask what you are doing sitting behind that table. And I think you should ask yourselves the same question. Please support the library, move this compromise forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Wilson Roberts.
Thank you for having this hearing. My name is Wilson Roberts. I live at 15 Chestnut Hill in Greenfield. I've been on the planning board. I've been on the council. I've been in your position, and I understand the difficulty sometimes of trying to herd cats. But I believe the French King Compromise is an imperfect solution, especially regarding the weakening of the major development review process, which is an important tool that helps us determine what kind of a community we want to live in and what kind of a community we want our children to live in. But the truth is, compromises are always imperfect. A willingness to compromise is essential to the success of our democracy. Nobody gets everything they ask for. We debate, and sometimes we use terrible language as we argue our points. People's feelings are often hurt. Reputations are sometimes damaged. Otherwise, decent and thoughtful people can become so alienated from one another that they can't speak to other decent and thoughtful people, at least civilly. In the end, we must compromise in order to move into the future. I believe the French King Compromise is a reasonable way for Greenfield to move forward. If all parties to the French King Compromise work with integrity, it will become a win-win solution to long-standing and deep-seated points of contention. The results would be a zoning change many people in town have long wanted, and a library many people in town have long wanted. More important, it could result, and you've heard this before, and I'm sure you'll hear it again this evening, it could result in healing so many of the hard feelings that have infected civil discourse in Greenfield and made it difficult for neighbors to respect neighbors. Some say the area between Silver Street and Route 2 is a lovely green gateway to town. Some say it is a wasteland, ugly and unattended. Some see its commercial or economic development as central to the future of our town. Some believe it will always be an outlying, undeveloped district, whatever its zoning. We will only know if you, our city councilors, will take a risk, and I believe that risk is well worth taking. The pitcher is about to throw the ball to the batter. Please swing hard and hit a home run.
Thank you. Richard Wiedegardner.
Good evening, Richard Wiedegardner, 85 Hastings Street, Greenfield. Good evening, city councilors. I would just like to mention that I was a town councilor of Greenfield for 3 years and took a lot of votes, and some of them were rather hard, and I can imagine how some of you might be feeling this evening. So I would just ask that you search your hearts and do what you feel is best for Greenfield now and for the future. And as for myself, I would just say this. The Dalai Lama says, be optimistic. It feels better. So tonight, I am optimistic. I believe that by the time you've taken your difficult votes, Greenfield will be well on its way to a new library for now and for the future. I thank you for your service. Namaste.
Faith Kaufman.
My name is Faith Kaufman. I live at 39 Gold Street. I want to talk about money, tax money, everybody's favorite subject, our money. Like many of us in Greenfield, I live paycheck to paycheck. I don't have extra money to put into things that aren't necessary. I need to save it for the things that are necessary, and I need to jump on those things when I get a good deal on them. To throw away a grant that's offered to us for half the cost of a new library that we desperately need is the opposite of fiscally conservative. Can I give you a piece of paper?
Sure.
That's a list of the 207 library buildings in other municipalities that the state of Massachusetts has put $401 million into renovating, building additions, and building new buildings since 1984. Interestingly, 1984 is how long I've been paying income taxes to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it feels personal that after all that time, when our share of the money has gone to 207 other towns, that we should have our turn and we should have our share come back to us, and we should take the opportunity. If we pass, there's a waiting list. First on the waiting list is Littleton, Mass., whose median household income is $119,000. So if we pass, that's where it goes. If they pass, or if someone else passes, then it goes to Sharon, whose median income is $132,000. This is our money. This is our Commonwealth. Share and share alike. It's our turn to take this money and build our building that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Douillard.
Good evening. My name is Jean Douillard, or Jeanne, as some people call me, and I live at 32 Lakeview Drive. I'm the finance person in our household, and I watch over our expenses very carefully, especially now that we're on a fixed income. We agree that our real estate taxes here in Greenfield are high, and we want to see continued work to find solutions to this real and very important issue. At the same time, we see an opportunity to address the real and serious problems with our current library. Granted, the circumstances around this decision are not perfect. We wish the numbers had been clearer from the start. But I'm asking, will there ever be a perfect time? Most likely not. The important thing, it seems to us, is to look at what's being offered now. What is being offered is a $9.4 million grant to help us build a facility, a public facility, that is accessible to all and for all our citizens. We believe in Greenfield. We believe that we can figure this out without disrespecting the Native Americans' real concerns, without creating a Riverdale Road on Route 2. Please, councilors, vote yes for a new library.
Armin Prue.
I'm Jean's husband, and she's the finance person in our household. But she did not tell me what to say. We came here in 2004. That's when I became the pastor of Second Congregational Church. I retired in 2012. Jean and I lived in many places throughout the United States. Of all the places, we found Greenfield, the valley and the hills, that this is the best place. This beloved community is our home forever and ever. Ministers say that often, forever and ever. So I'm not responsible, it just comes out that way. So I say a resounding amen. Ministers say that too, which means yes to both the preservation of sacred grounds and the building of a new library. I hope the councilors say amen to that.
Thank you. Douglas Sky Wright.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Douglas Sky White, 237 Conway Street in Greenfield. First off, I'd like to thank all the council members for hanging in there in kind of a difficult situation that's divided a lot of people, and hopefully we can come back together as one. I think we can do that. When I first heard about the new library project, I thought, as a former teacher, gosh, what a great, terrific idea. And then when I heard about the compromise plan between city councilors Renaud and Mass, I felt like, oh, wait a second, I'm not so crazy about this idea. It feels like a little bit of a hostage situation. I did feel that. But last week I changed my mind. The realities of a complex situation dawned on me, and I realized the only way the citizens of Greenfield are going to get a new, comprehensive, beautiful library is through compromise. And I feel and believe that this negotiated compromise is worth some new commercial industrial zoning development, which the city of Greenfield probably needs anyway to up its tax base. The other two reasons I changed my mind were as follows. First, it's been 111 years, 111 years since Greenfield has had a new library. And second, the opportunity to create such an outstanding asset could well last us 100+ years if we get this passed. And it's unlikely to happen again in the next 30 years or more, if ever. So I feel negotiation and compromise are the art of progress, and that's what we're trying to do here, to work things out together. So I commend you guys for doing that. So let's seize this incredible opportunity to build a new library, the centerpiece of a new Greenfield, while we can. Let's do this, people. Let's do this now while we can. It's been 111 years. I think we've waited long enough. Thanks for your help and cooperation.
Thank you. Joseph Ruggieri. Ruggieri.
That's fine. Italian Ruggieri. My name in Greenfield, though, is Joseph Ruggieri. I live at 643 Bernison Road. I'm amazed to see the crowd tonight. I'd like to know if folks are willing to raise their hand or stand if you're able, who supports this compromise. Thank you. I hope this shows the council how supportive the town is. I feel confident in my beliefs. I feel confident in the work that I've done to get us to this point. I feel confident in the group that I've done this work with. I feel as though I really know the citizens of Greenfield. I know a lot of them. I'm a fourth generation business person and resident of this town. You know, I send my kids to the schools. I get to know those folks of that demographic. I meet folks who are moving to this community through my real estate business. I meet folks on numerous boards that I sit on private clubs that I'm a member of, and I can be found on the social scene a little more often than I wish to admit. In my opinion, in what I've learned and what I've heard, I believe 70% or so of this community is supportive of a compromise. I do know there are this 15% over here who are for the library but anti-zoning. I feel like there's 15% of people over here who are pro-zoning and anti-library. I feel like there's 70% or more of the people in this community that want a compromise, that want a deal. This is so amazing for the future of our community. I realize you all are serving on this board and doing what you feel is best for our town, and I appreciate that. I just hope you can see the opportunity that we have here, voting yes on the zoning, yes on the MDR, and yes on the library. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Draper.
Hi, my name is Judy Draper, and I live at 28 Prospect Avenue. I have not lived in Greenfield as long as many of you have. I've lived here since 2007. And it has seemed to me in the debate about the library and about zoning that there's some deep-seated wounds in this city that have a chance now to begin to be healed. I am for the library. I'm a retired teacher. I'm from a town that built a library, a beautiful new library, and I think the one that it replaced was about as old as the one that's here, and it made a huge difference in the town. Nobody knew how that would turn out, but it made a huge difference in that town in the South, in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I am so anxious to have healing happen in this town because even in the locker room at the Y, we start talking about the library and some people are over here, like Joe said, 15% who don't want anything. They don't, they want the library, but they aren't willing to compromise. I am for the compromise, and like so many people have said, in a compromise, everybody gets some of what they want. And nobody gets all of what they want, and that's the way life is. We need to compromise. We need to go about the business of healing. I love this town. I love this city. It's called a city now. I always forget that. And I just am anxious to be part of it. I could do without the zoning changes, but I'm perfectly happy to do the zoning changes because that's what compromise is about. So I would like to know, like David said, or somebody said, what, the vision of Greenfield that we all need to work on. And it's going to take work on all our parts. It's going to take giving. And we're not all going to get all of what we want. And that ought to be okay. Thanks a lot. This is terrifying being up here looking at all of you like this.
John Bednarski.
It is hard to be up here, isn't it? That's okay. John Bednarski, 105 Franklin Street. Hi, councilors. Thanks for having this open forum where we can speak. I think it's reasonable to think it's more likely than not that each of you has made a decision on your vote tonight on the two issues before us that we're talking about tonight. And if I'm wrong about that, if there are some that maybe have not, I don't know that I'll be the one to find the right words to change that opinion or make it for you. Yes, I'm for the library. Yes, I'm for the compromise. I think these, as many have said before I walked up here, has something to offer for all of us. So rather than take my time to repeat those words or stumble through some speech about why it makes sense to me to do these things, I thought I'd just say the sun is going to come out tomorrow. We are going to be neighbors still tomorrow. There's a group here that will be disappointed. I don't know which. It might be me. That's okay. We'll still be friends and neighbors and colleagues working together tomorrow. Let's not lose sight of that. Thank you.
Carl Meyer.
Hello, councilors. Carl Meyer. I live at 91 Smith Street. I didn't know how to approach this, but I am a regular and enthusiastic library patron. I must start with that. I'm also a writer and journalist, and some people here might see me for the last 15 or more years. I've been standing on the town common with assorted people, all good-hearted, began with protesting against a very ill-advised war. But I've stayed out there, and I don't usually have a sign, but I stand there because at that point in time, 15, almost 20 years ago now, it became sort of unpopular to sort of exercise your right to free speech. And that's why I'm out there. There are too many places now where freedom and democracy seem to have been squeezed tight and shut. But I see the library, and I'm in favor of both the library and a compromise, which is difficult for many of us. But I see the library as one of the last truly democratic places in town, in any town. You can go in there, and no matter who you are, you're welcome. You can explore the facts. You can get to the truth. And it is just one of these places that I think is about the future. And I think we owe that, and we owe this place of freedom and the First Amendment, and that's my favorite as a writer, and all the rest don't mean much if you don't have that one. And I do think the library has a lot to do with that. And it is a vision of the future, and it is a future and a place of freedom that we can offer our kids. So please, I ask all of you to vote in favor in any way you can to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Adam.
Hi, my name is Janice Adam. I'm at 252 Davis Street in Greenfield. First, I do want to thank each and every one of you for doing what you do to be part of this and support of the, I'm sorry, I need to be further right. Is that right? Oh, there we are. I'm like the other guy who said, this is terrifying. Okay. Anyway, I do want to thank each of you for what you do and and I know that you each believe in your hearts that you're doing the absolute best that you can for Greenfield, and I very much appreciate that. But tonight I want to also ask you to please, please consider voting for both the compromise and the library, because the library is absolutely our future. I believe that with all my heart. I have been working more than I have in a while on things of this nature, and I'm so passionate about it, and I really, really hope that you can all see your way clear to that compromise. Because at the end of the day, as many people have said, we all don't get what we all want. We have to compromise. That's how we move forward. If we have to only stick with if we can only get 100%, we won't move forward and we'll be stuck. And I think it's important for Greenfield to continue to move forward and to continue to be positive. And I just want to ask you very respectfully if you would consider both of those pieces and vote for the compromise and vote for the library. And really, this is a vote for the future of Greenfield. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jack Anderson.
Hi.
Hi.
I won't take my 3 minutes unless I pass out. I got a laugh on that. I'd like to thank everyone who's worked on this, all the councilors, the mayor, everyone who's put their heart and soul into this. My name's Jack Anderson. I live at 729 Coleraine Road. And I won't go over all the other stuff. Everybody who's spoken before me at these meetings has been so much more eloquent than I could ever be. But I would urge you to vote for this compromise in the library, which is, this is such a opportunity for Greenfield. It would be a shame if it slips away. The only point that I have a little different perspective, since I moved back to Greenfield after a long time, I ran the little cafe next to the library, La Petite Cafe. Some of you have been in there throughout the years. So I've ran that for the last 3 years with John de la Briere. And I've had the opportunity to get to know a lot of people in town and as customers and friends. And mostly also I see how many people use the library for all different things, all stratas of income and place in society. It's such a, like I think someone just before me said, it's such a democratic institution, so important to this town. I would just urge everyone to keep that in mind when they're voting today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mick Muller.
Yep. Good evening. Thank you for your time, giving us the time here. My name is Mick Muller. I live on River Street in Greenfield. I own a web company with 70 hosted customers in Greenfield. They're all businesses. I'm also the clerk for the Greenfield Business Association. I'm not representing the GBA here today, but wanted to add that to underscore my level of involvement in the local business community. I'm in full support of building the new library for several reasons. Economic development. More people will come to town to use the new advanced facilities, including even more after-school kids, all of whom will likely patronize many local businesses while in town, including the struggling YMCA right across the street. Today I called Athol Town Hall and spoke with Planning and Development Eric Smith about the effects on their town after they built their new library, which is gorgeous. I don't know if anyone's been there. He said it's their, quote, anchor cultural institution and has brought many, many people to town. He called the new library a success story. Number 2, improved services for students, readers, researchers, and room for many more educational and cultural events, library programming, assuring that the library will be future-proof. Just because people can access the internet doesn't mean we don't need a library. Number 3, accessibility, because it's the right thing to do, and simply upgrading the old building will still cost the town millions of dollars, so why not do it right? And number 4, local pride, to show that we as a community care about our town and are willing to invest in the next 100 years of our library. I am, however, against the rezoning of the French King Overlay District as it is currently outlined. We need to bring more people into town, not to another outskirt location that allows people to skip the inside of town. Creating a gravity well at that end of town, bracketing us with the existing Big Y Plaza, is not a good strategy for supporting existing greenfield businesses, many of whom are struggling. We should be concentrating on filling all the empty storefronts in Greenfield, both on Main Street and elsewhere in town. I'd love to see this debated here instead. Do we even know what our existing available stock in town is? If anything is done with the French King Overlay District, we should bring in large employers who do not compete with our local businesses. There are already a dozen empty storefronts just on Main Street. A new big box store will put Wilson's out of business quickly. Fast food restaurants, even with signs on Route 2 for the Route 5 and 10 exit, Burger King closed down. I don't know what's in there now. Adding more competition could put more restaurants and fast food joints that are in town out of business. It's also a historical site, older than the United States itself. There's a lot to be found there instead of just paving over it. If something must happen on the French King Highway, support an extension of the industrial park for more business such as West County Equipment, etc. The bottom line, in the race against the impending Amazon drone delivery army, which is coming, and include food, it'll impact businesses everywhere, and I think that putting competition out there is wrong thinking.
Thank you. Crystal Zimmer.
Good evening. I'm Crystal Zimmer, 10 Stanley Street in Greenfield. Good evening, City Council members and members of the community. I'm speaking tonight as a concerned parent and a Greenfield citizen of almost 16 years. In this time, I have seen the recession hit, the schools suffer, and the demographics of our community shift. Greenfield is an amazing, wonderful, and diverse city. Our recreation department is vibrant, and you can feel the touch of our church and human service organizations all over Greenfield, bringing humanity, dignity, and respect to people without homes, the hungry, and the afflicted. I am a teacher who understands the value in having a public library that is accessible to all people. I wonder, though, why, if the library is so important, do we not have an adequate technology budget in our schools? Why does only one of our elementary schools have a part-time librarian while the others go without? And why, when the school committee asks for more money, do they have to pull and scrape and beg to keep bus services, early care, teachers, and adequate staffing in the schools, not to mention to provide library services? Every year, I fight through multiple team and IEP meetings so my son can keep the special ed services that continue to be cut every single year. And in this new budget, they are already cutting 4 paraprofessionals for next year. I am all about having a place for people to go and have access to technology and books and news and literacy services. What I don't understand is why, when you build a brand new community center, did we not consider a multi-purpose building? Why, when we built our brand new police department, did we not consider that our fire department was going to be needing updating? Montague has an all-in-one emergency services complex, and we have a habit of not thinking ahead. I urge you to consider what the future needs you may have are before making a narrow decision. Perhaps we will need a new elementary school building. Perhaps we will need more consolidated, efficient elementary school system in the future. Perhaps one of those buildings can be renovated into a more accessible library. What's the use in a library if kids are not getting services they need now to learn and read and use technology properly in school? I don't mean to go against those who want the library, because I think it is really important, but we need to think in a more efficient way about the many projects that are done in the city. And if you are generous to the schools, the results will only mean future gains for the community, more confident, able adults, less unemployment, more jobs, and more innovative thinkers, and ultimately more taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Roberts.
Good evening, and thank you. A lot of what I have to say has already been said in one form or another, so forgive me if it's repetitive, but I have my own way of putting the words together, and hopefully it's interesting and helpful. In my perfect world, you would vote no on the zoning initiative and yes for the library. However, I'm not always completely all that realistic. Regardless of how the council votes this evening on the proposed zoning changes, I ask you as a citizen of Greenfield to please vote for the new library. If the zoning initiative fails, I am confident that between the town council, the planning board, the ZBA, the mayor's office, and the Office of Economic and Community Development, that the city can find a path forward for creating an effective zoning that fosters economic development and protects our resources. The combined votes tonight on the library and zoning initiative are an opportunity for Greenfield to heal and move forward with the new library and pathway to a unified vision for future growth. As was expressed at the planning board meeting Monday evening, zoning is a flexible living process that can adapt to a community's changing needs over time. This, however, is our one chance to attain a new state-of-the-art, fully accessible library anywhere within the foreseeable future, and most likely within our lifetimes. Greenfield deserves this library. Tens of thousands of hours have been devoted by committed volunteers to making the dream a reality, not just for the benefit of those involved, but for the future generations of Greenfield who will be here long after we are all gone. This is a legacy-building moment. Our children will thank us. Fear and uncertainty are a part of life, but nothing advances without vision and courage. The library and the new fire station are both achievable safely within the city's bond rating. If property tax rates do go up, it's my understanding that will be minimal, yet represent a significant investment in the future with incalculable dividends. So please, dare to dream, be bold, lead us to a brighter future, be heroes. Please make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Bill Benson. And please don't forget to state your address.
Good evening. Bill Benson, 52 Grinnell Street. Well, folks, we're at the end of a road, I hope. A long road that's been well traveled by hundreds of your constituents who have invested thousands of hours in trying to do something special for Greenfield. Now, I'm not going to reiterate all the arguments that have been really well articulated, informed, and passionate about why we need a new library. That's already been done. What I like to do is take this opportunity of my public time to actually thank the people that I've been working with over the past several years to get this library done. You know, I'm kind of an old cynic, but I'll tell you something. The passion I've seen, the commitment I've seen, and just the pure energy I've seen has really given me a lot of hope personally, and given me a lot of hope for this community. You know, some of you may know I'm a veteran of a lot of political campaigns and experience. I represented this community proudly in the State House and on the county level. And I've been a veteran of many political campaigns, protests, and all kinds of activist activity over the years. But I have never been part of something so positive, so pure in spirit, so open-minded as the people who are supporting this library. It really brings about something that gives me a positive vision for the future of Greenfield. This has been one of the most well-organized efforts. Actually, it's a movement. We've started a movement here that goes well beyond the library. And it's a positive movement with a positive vision for our future. So I would like to just take this opportunity to thank everyone for allowing me to be part of it. In terms of the council, I urge you, I plead with you to keep an open mind regarding our future, to look at the progress that we can make by supporting the library. And I just want you to say yes to all this stuff. And actually, my only request is that you say yes to the new library. Thank you.
Elaine Fletcher.
My name's Elaine Fletcher, and I live at 40 Union Street, Apartment 2. I moved here about 5 years ago from East Texas, from a small town that's even smaller than Greenfield. And we had trouble with downtown, too. We had a lot of trouble with businesses and stuff. We had what y'all call a big box store here move in. People started moving in back into our town. It's a small farm community, basically, and I live 6 miles out of town. And so I had to go 6 miles into town or 36 miles to go get groceries in one of the bigger towns. And I'd rather stay here in Greenfield instead of having to take a bus and go somewhere else to another library. This library is a beautiful building, but it's been there 112 years. I have been there nearly every day for 5 years. I've seen how hard those people work in the library. They do not have very much space in their offices, and I've seen a lot of the kids after school in there. I'm a substitute teacher. I did that for 21 years in East Texas. I'm a teacher here. And I've seen a lot of the kids not able to find some of the resources that they need to do their projects at school. So they have to go to Turner's Falls or, one of the other towns. And I'm just saying, I feel from my bottom of my heart, I don't have words prepared. I agree with what a lot of the other people said. We got $9.4 million, basically. If we do not use that money, the next town will. They have already said that they are in the process of wanting to build their library. And I just feel it's very important. My mom started taking me to the library when I was 2 years old. I'm now 52, and I still get a thrill every time I walk through that door. I can get DVDs, you can get books, auto books. It's not just plain paper books anymore. They have a lot of awesome programs that they do for the kids, for the parents with the little babies, but there's just not enough room down in the basement. And this building would really help. And as for the compromise, I think the two came up with a great solution, and you came up with a great solution, that it be industrial and commercial. And that's really all. I just feel this is very important, being one of those people that are newer to this community, that this is the first place I looked for when I started looking up Greenfield online, was what the library was all about.
Thank you. Christine Forgy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak at this public comment period at the council meeting. For those of you who don't know me, I was the first mayor of Greenfield. I was also, and I served in that capacity for 6 years. For about 7+ years, I was also served on the library board of trustees. I can tell you historically, which is one of my most favorite things to do, is that the library was always treated as an orphan child. People have cited here this evening 110 years of use. That space has been committed to being our public library. To me, that means that many town council meetings and many boards of selectmen have had opportunities to do something about the library, but for some reason, it never rose to the top in matters of importance. To me, a library is as important as the right to vote. It's a tenet of our civilized society. It is what we use to protect knowledge, to be a guardian of access to knowledge, so that everyone equally can access that knowledge. They can choose not to, they can choose to do that, but it's about time Greenfield had a state-of-the-art library. It enhances our community. It also makes a statement about who we are. I've heard very eloquent people tonight talk about how they feel. I want to say, I feel the same way they all do. And I can be just as confused sometimes as everybody else can be. And I know that making decisions are very stressful things that have to be done. It's not easy. But what I do know is that the library deserves, they deserve to have a chance to be built, to be honored in this community. The overlay district, for those of you that are old enough to remember, was born in controversy. And for the past 20+ years, it has, as many people have spoken about tonight, provided a source of friction and disjointed our community because we were unable to really discuss openly and productively a compromise piece. I can tell you that trying to develop that property as big box was very difficult, but I can tell you that Native Americans were represented at that table. What I'd like to say is that myself, Mayor Martin, we're transition mayors. The next election that's coming up is really about setting the tone in the future for what mayoral government is going to look like and what leadership is going to look like in this community. As I said before, the overlay district was born in controversy. You have a chance to put it together, to put it to rest in compromise, which is a very healing process. It's not often done in government. It's not often applauded. Please do it. Please vote for the library. Please vote yes for change in the overlay district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike Larrabee.
Hello, good evening. Hello. Mike Larrabee, 24 Oak Hill Acres. I'm for the library, but what brings me in here tonight, and it's probably going to be my last chance to say anything about the overlay, is that my dad had a vision 60 years ago. He built and bought a property on the French King Highway. He built a business that lasted about 20 years. His vision for the area was that someday the other properties would also be developed. and that we'd have the commercial properties bring in taxpayer money and the commercial people pay the taxes, and that the whole area would be developed. And my parents have had a place for 60 years up there, and nothing's going to become of the French King Highway unless we see everybody develop their commercial properties. There's a lot of businesses there right now that are trying. They have visions for the future, but they've been waiting 20, 30, 40 years to see something develop on that end of town. And I'd just like to say that I hope you consider the taxpayers and the commercial property owners of the French King Highway that have been waiting and waiting and waiting to develop their properties and to have businesses and commercial properties that will help pay the taxes for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Wilson. Lindley Wilson.
Lindley, yeah. It's all right. A lot of people have a hard time with that name. Okay, I'm Lindley Wilson, 12 Shattuck Street, Greenfield. And for me, this is not simply an argument whether or not vote for the library or not vote for the library, because to be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure where I stand on that, because there still hasn't been any material evidence to suggest to me how are we going to pay for the new fire department. And I've not seen any of the fire department guys up here with their argument either. And also, I'm a lifelong resident of Greenfield, so I see other kinds of things needing more attention. Let's see, there was that infamous Memorial Day when everybody was out in their backyards barbecuing, and the sewage went on Federal Street because Cumberland Farms had an issue with their bathrooms. So to me, there are other things that kind of take precedent over this. However, the main point I'd like to make is that I've been hearing a lot of emotional responses with regard to library. I am a lifelong learner in library. My children as well, and I can't imagine going through life without a library. But I'm also a big fan of real books. Let's put that out front. To me, I think we are heading towards a slippery slope with regard of this trade-off of the corridor on French King Highway. And I have real issues with that, because for me, it always comes down to follow the money. Who stands to gain the most if this comes into play? I mean, it's already been successfully argued who stands to gain if we have a new library. That is to say, if we have new books, for instance. Again, I'm still on the fence because I'm not sure we need another community center when we don't even use the one that we have. Nonetheless, when I weigh things out, I would prefer having a library than to have this new zoning situation, because I think we have to, as others have already said, we have to look further down the line and go at this very, very thoughtfully, methodically, and come up with a perfect solution, and not this quick quid pro quo trade-off, which to me is not only subject to debate on many different levels, but it's being rushed through. And I don't think that it's fair to the residents of Greenfield and others to be put in this position where we have to decide whether we have a library or whether we do further research with regard what the future of that section of Greenfield is. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Berlin.
So, my name is Ed Berlin, 20 Orchard Street, Greenfield. I can't even remember the number of times that I've addressed you all in support of this library, but I am sure that this is the last time. And I first just want to thank each of you for putting up with us for all these years. And I also really want to thank the hundreds of people who've worked so hard for so long to bring us to this point. Some of us have been working on this project for over 6 years. And it's really been a project of just pure love, of something that we all feel is just so important for Greenfield. And I really want to just call out and thank President Renaud and Councilor Moss for putting this compromise on the table. It took a tremendous amount of courage to do it, and I know you've both gotten a lot of flack for doing it, and I really appreciate it, and I know that you both did it for the good of Greenfield. And I would ask that each of you please vote yes tonight and have the courage to do so, because I truly think it really is in our town's best interest. Tonight can really be, and it is, an historic night. Each of you could be making the most important political decision of your entire political career. The decisions you make tonight will be shaping the future of Greenfield for many generations to come. We have an opportunity to get a brand new state-of-the-art library and pay 50 cents on the dollar, and we have the opportunity to heal divisions that have existed in this town for about 30 years. I also just want to make a brief shout out to someone who's become my friend over the last year or so, and that's Vern's son. And I know how hard it's been for you, and I'm really sorry that you've had to go through some of what you had to go through, and I know that in your heart you are struggling to do the right thing. And as an aside, I just want to mention that because of some of the comments that you made in December, it really created an impetus for the foundation to really push to raise money. And I think to date they've raised close to $750,000, and they're poised to really hit the ground running tomorrow after hopefully we get a yes vote today. And I would just echo what Joe Ruggieri said. It's pretty clear there's a group in this town who are opposed to the library at any cost. There's another group opposed to the zoning changes at any cost. But I truly believe it's a huge majority who is in support of this compromise. It's time to move forward together, no longer to be us and them, but we move forward together. And just let me just say in closing that imagine what it's going to be like in this room tonight and tomorrow if the vote here is tonight, and the sadness and the depression and the feeling of failure for all the work that we've done versus what it will be like in this room tonight and tomorrow, and the excitement in this town, the vitality and the movement that's already begun if we have a yes vote tonight. It's your choice. It's either win-win or lose-lose, and please vote yes, yes for a win-win.
Thank you. That ends the amount of people that have been signed up for the public comment. I'm going to ask now Councilor Wheeler to open up the public hearing and read the public hearing items. And I'm going to ask Vice President Ricketts to hold the floor for me for a second while I run to the bathroom.
All right, I won't read too fast then. City Council's second reading, March 20th, 2019. Am I at the right place? I hope so. The following sums be appropriated from the Contractual Stabilization Fund to fund retroactive provisions of contract agreement, Local 274, cafeteria food service workers. 2017-2018 school year, $5,092.77. 2018-2019 school year, $8,685.28. Total, $13,778.05. To a contractual stabilization balance of $91,000, $687.09. I did it in the wrong order. You can't do the second reading first, apparently. All right. Public hearing. Let's make sure. Yep. All right. In accordance, sorry about that, everyone. In accordance with Home Charter Rule, the Greenfield City Council will hold a public hearing on March 20th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at Greenfield High School Cafeteria, 21 Bar Ave, to receive public input on the following. The following sums be appropriated from the Contractual Stabilization Fund to fund retroactive provisions of contract agreement Local 274 Cafeteria Food Service Workers 2017-2018 school year, $5,092.77. 2018-2019 school year, $8,685.28 total. $13,778.05. Contractual stabilization balance, $91,687.09. The City Council will consider the same on Wednesday, March 20th at 7 p.m. at Greenfield High School Cafeteria, 21 Bar Avenue. Materials can be obtained from the City Clerk's Office, 14 Court Square, from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, or phone 413-772-1555, extension 6163.
Okay, the public hearing will stay open until the president comes back. Can we have communication from the mayor? From this mayor, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Borgi. We don't have anything prepared. The finance director is here, along with myself, if we can answer questions, but we know you have a lot to discuss. We certainly appreciate all the time and effort you put into this, and particularly the courage to put together, as Councilor Mast and Councilor Renault have offered this compromise, as it's called. We see a great support across the community, and we're wishing that the councilors have looked into every angle of this so that it's a benefit to the entire community on both ends of the votes. We will have some announcement next week, or maybe the latter part of this week, that will impact the, unfortunately that information is embargoed at this point, but will impact, I think, some of the feelings that people have about economic development. So hopefully we'll be able to get that out to you as quickly as possible. Are there any questions?
Any counselor? Councilor Stemple.
What does that mean?
That means that it takes a lot of effort to, as you all know, to get to the final results, or even a very healthy beginning. So when you put in that effort, then you get a reward and announcement, and we've been notified, but it cannot be expressed publicly at this time. But we're all aware of what we've worked on together.
I'm sorry, I had to follow up. I was curious if it was something like a project we were working on internally or something with the planning office. So I was like, why can't we know? What do you mean embargo?
Yeah.
So I apologize for my brassness. In terms of economic development, there was word on Monday about the work that the planning office has been doing over the last 2 years in terms of zoning and research. And I was just hoping you could comment on that and when you think that research might be available from the planning department.
Yeah, the chair of the planning board and our senior planner, Eric Twarog, and Linda Smith, have been moved up the agenda for reviewing our bylaws, our ordinances. Some of them are create obstacles in the development process. So it has to do with some of them has parking spaces. When we have conflicting ideals, for instance, we have a very strong interest in creating pervious surfaces so that the water naturally returns to its origin, and at the same time we commit developers to paving acres of land that prevents that process. So I've asked the planning department to review a number of different ordinances and bylaws that impact the conflicting purposes of our master plan and our planning ideals. Welcome.
Councilor Sun.
Yes, I just wondering, and a lot of people are wondering, what's happening with the fire department? Whether it's going to float downstream or it's going to go forward.
The fire department, You mean the new building?
Yes,
Or
sir.
the union?
The whole caboodle.
The fire department's doing a wonderful job. They were quickly responding to the incident on the water break on Country Club Road. The capital plan shows a $550,000 request for construction plans. You've got that. That was delivered yesterday. The site is located on Riddell and Beacon Street. There is a $2.3 million earmark for that site from the state. We want to incorporate all of that activity in that area that will benefit the final result of creating a building suitable for the fire department and a future public safety complex that this council or other councils and another mayor will have to address in the future. Did that answer the question?
Yes, I just wanted to, other people are wondering if it's going to ever happen to move. That's,
Yes.
they're,
Yeah, well, tell those people that we are in the process, and it's now before the council with our plan. Thank you.
Councilor Pifrom.
Have you heard any opposition from the residents on Riddell Street about the fire station being housed there in the future?
No, I have not. We've just heard from one, maybe two residents about the skate park.
One other thing, I just want to say thank you to Captain John Whitney of the fire department, the Greenfield Police, and especially DPW for their quick response. There was a lot of complaints without water. We all know we need water. But they worked fast to resolve the solution, and the water was turned on in a timely manner. So thank you all.
Yeah. And I echo your comments. There was a great response from the DPW and the fire department, as well as the police department. Not only cordoning off that area and taking care of the immediate break, but there was potential for issues around town because of the drop in the fire flow. And the fire chief Strand and Director Warner made plans for what might have happened, but it didn't. So it's really, you have a great emergency response group and teammates that take care of things not only that are happening, but things that might happen.
Are there any other questions for the mayor? Seeing none, I think that's it, unless you have anything you would like to say to us.
Liz? No, we're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There will be no communications from GSET, and there will be no communications from the schools and the school committee. Therefore, I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:27. Can it wait until GSET is here? Because I asked them. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking, and for all of you who've written and called, and all of your opinions and your voices are welcome, and we always like to hear from you. And again, thank you for coming out tonight. And I do have to say, if you could take the balloons with you, I've been asked to say that. That would be terrific. So this portion of the meeting, I want to explain something. So at chairs, it was decided that this meeting would just focus on the library and the zoning, so that you didn't have to sit here through a bazillion other orders and resolutions and motions that we know that's not why you're here, but we do have 3 that we have to take up quickly in the beginning, and then it shouldn't take too long, and then we're going to go right into the zoning and then the library vote. And this is the portion of the meeting where the metaphorical rails are closed and the discussion happens just between the councilors now. Again, thank you for coming. And I'm going to let Councilor Wheeler take it away with motion number 1.
Thank you, Madam President. The City Council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council take from the table order number FY19-062. The City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, ordered that the council authorizes the payment of FY18 bills for $1,546.82 from the FY19 Energy Department budget. Eversource, $263.14. Eversource, $1,283.68, which was tabled at the December 19th, 2018 City Council meeting.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Report from committee? Oh, I'm sorry. We're taking it
This
from
is-
the table. So, all in favor? Opposed? Abstain? It's been taken from the table. Council Wheeler?
This was before my, wait, oh, okay. Yeah, there was very little discussion. This was, it got a unanimous recommendation.
Okay. So now the payment of FY18 bills, 1,546, is on the table. And is there any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstain. Okay, motion carries. Councilor Wheeler.
The City Council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council take from the table order number FY 19-67. The City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Martin, ordered that the Greenfield City Council approve the payment of prior year invoice for Next Request Company in the amount of $4,750 to be paid from the FY19 Greenfield Technology budget, which was tabled at the January 16th, 2019 City Council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain? Okay, so now there's a motion on the table to approve the payment of a prior year invoice, Next Quest Company, $4,750, to be paid from FY19 Greenfield Technology budget. Councilor Wheeler, report from committee?
We did not, this was not on our agenda. I think probably it had been addressed earlier, the prior meeting.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this? No? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention. Motion carries. Councilor Wheeler.
The City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, ordered that the following sums be appropriated from the Contractual Stabilization Fund to fund retroactive provisions of Contract Agreement Local 274 Cafeteria Food Service Workers, 2017-2018 school year, $5,092.77, 2018-2019 school year, $86.85.28, total $13,778.05 for a contractual stabilization balance of $91,687.09.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Report from committee?
This was a unanimous positive recommendation.
Okay, is there any, Councilor Alice?
Yeah, my apologies that I couldn't make it to the meeting earlier. Did the contractual stabilization balance, is that before or after this money? Did that question, I'm just curious if it's before or after.
Yeah, that question actually was not brought up at the meeting. It's after, I believe.
It's before? Okay, then I don't need to, I just was curious if it was before or after. Thank you, though. Okay, thank you, I just had that question.
Any other discussion? Oh, it's just the balance. Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Councilor Stemple.
I thought by leaving Ways and Means I wouldn't have to read so much. Joke's on me. The City Council moved that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the Code of the City of Greenfield Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 200, Section 4.16, Corridor Overlay District, CO, as follows, striking A1 in its entirety and replacing with French King Highway High Street Corridor. Overlay district shall apply to the following roadway corridors. 1, land extending from the intersection of Clark Street and High Street along High Street south to Smith Street. And 2, the land east of the French King Highway and north of Canada Hill Road to the junction of the French King Highway and Route 2. And further amends the table of contents and index of the code. And further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Report from committee.
It was a majority positive with 1 abstention, and I was the abstention. And I will let other people discuss before I get into my part.
Okay. I'm struggling with my jacket here. Never mind, I'm just going to take it off. Okay, so this is it. This is a really bad timing for this jacket issue. So this is the first of the zoning amendments. This one is going to require 10 votes because there was a petition filed and certified from the abutters of the land near where the overlay would be lifted. So just to be clear, everybody, this is going to require 10 votes in order for it to be passed. So who wants to go first? Councilor Wheeler.
I prepared something, so I apologize if it's a little repetitive. We heard a lot of good thoughts, and thank you for everyone for sharing. We have an opportunity tonight to put years, if not decades, of infighting behind us, to build a brand new state-of-the-art library that could last for hopefully centuries, to relax regulations that may or may not be holding back development in Greenfield, and hopefully to, like so many people have said, achieve some resolution to a dispute that has divided our community for as long as I can remember. For years, the debate around French King Highway was dominated by people on opposite sides of the issue, while folks in the middle felt left out. And this compromise is for them. And I want to give a sincere thank you to Councilor Mass and Councilor Reno for suggesting it. I do plan to vote for it because I believe that the zoning changes will not have an adverse effect on our town. I understand why the planning board voted the way they did on Monday, giving it a negative recommendation, but their special focus by design confines their expertise to a limited purview. The city council's mandate is broader. It's to look at the big picture. And for years, isolating the debate around the French King Highway from other issues has allowed progressives like myself to ignore the bigger picture. Tonight, let's put our differences aside. Let's think to the future. Let's vote for a better Greenfield.
Any other comment? Discussion? Councilor Beerson.
I have been at just about each and every one of the hearings in connection with these matters, and I think it's time for us to vote unanimously for this, for a lot of reasons. One, it demonstrates that we are really the instrument of the people's will, and that's what we're about, but also it establishes a predicate for moving forward with a sense of unanimity, purpose, and kindness to each other, which has been in short supply for a long time. Therefore, I appreciate the fact that the petition has been filed, which necessitates 10 votes in order for passage of this, and I recognize the link that it is to the library vote. And to speak to the future, that is one of the cornerstones of what I consider to be my vision of Greenfield's future, which is based in a knowledge economy, which certainly is not a new idea, but it has been slow to come here. So I would urge my fellow councilors to unanimously support this zoning change because it accomplishes a great deal. I would be remiss to say that I think Councilor Mass and the president of this council have shown a great deal of flexibility with the principal focus on what is the best situation possible for the town, also known as the city of Greenfield. So I would ask my fellow councilors to unanimously support this to make it really whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Mayo.
Thank you, President. I'll make my remarks very quick. Many of us tonight have used the word opportunity, and I believe in opportunity, and I also believe in history, but most importantly, I believe in Greenfield's future for all. That's one of the reasons why I'm voting for the new library. That's one of the reasons why I'm voting for I'm in favor of the tax changes or the overlay. I believe in Greenfield's future, and I believe a new library stands for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Stemple.
We talked a lot about vision. I say opportunity, but I think we were kind of charged with talking about our vision. And I ran for council in 2015 because I did have a vision for my hometown. This might seem a bit crass, but I'm not concerned about the empty storefronts in downtown because I think my vision for Greenfield is not of retail success, but of neighbors, friends, and families gathering, and that's what makes this community so impactful. Look at all of you who showed up tonight. And so I think that's what makes our community different. It's not where there's retail, where there's not retail, or what kind of retail is here, because that retail, the reality is now here. What we can't do here is what all of you are doing here, and that's gather. So I'm not really concerned about the overlay. I too don't think that there will be any negative impact by that because, like I said, the power of retail is here. What we can't change is our ability to do this. And so that's my vision for Greenfield. It's more gathering places. It's more places for us to put these away and get to know each other, not via email or Skype. And I wish I could just throw my work computer out the window sometimes. But to do more of this. And I think the library is a great piece of that vision for me. And so that's why I'm a huge supporter of the library. And it did take me a little while to see how aligned that building would be with my vision for Greenfield. So I will support this. My concern is with the MDR, and that is next, so we can talk about that a little later.
Any other discussion? Councilor Alice.
So I actually, I feel like the overlay is something that I'm more concerned with the MDR, not concerned, but I'm more in favor of the MDR because I believe changing the MDR makes the overlay fairly moot because the things that the overlay prohibits are not things that bring in huge amounts of revenue. However, changing the MDR, which I will be 100% in favor of, actually could make a significant impact on the development that we desperately need. So I actually won't vote for the overlay, but I will vote for the MDR. So that's where I'm at.
Any other discussion? Councilor Ricketts. Vice President Ricketts.
I want to thank everyone for coming and sharing and all your emails over many months. It's been informative, and I thank you very much for not calling. I like the compromise, so yes, I will say amen. I like the baseball analogy, So yes, I'm up to bat, and I don't want to strike out, so I will be voting yes. And to our previous mayor, and to, I believe, Mr. Berlin, this is historic. I emailed the planning board first thing yesterday morning to thank them for their time, and I understand why they voted the way they voted. They do the big picture on all of this all the time, and not in such a quick manner, so I do understand it. And I understand Council Wheeler seeing the difference of what we do and how we can vote to change something, because it is in our purview and it is better. We are neighbors, and so we do have to remember that. If anything about Mr. Norman, he has been consistent and passionate from day one about this issue. So I do totally disagree, but I respect that we hear from everyone in this room, no matter what. The library is very important to me, and I hope that this will pass. As you can tell, I'm very, not as strong as I want to be tonight. So I'm hoping that everything is a yes vote, and that we really take what we heard tonight and over the last few months. And that's the thing, is it's been months and years, actually, and we're finally here. I just went to visit my father, who lives in Athol, and he was so proud to tell me about his library card. And he's always had one in Wendell, and now he has one there. So I was able to look around some there, and for him to show me, like, what do you want to show me? And it was the library, and I was so surprised. And I said, Dad, I heard there's some stores here too. And he's 82, and so it means a lot, because we grew up with books, and we had to just go outside and play. I'm glad I didn't grow up in an era where we had cell phones and tablets. It would have never worked in our family anyway. We didn't have so-called screen time. We were just so told to go outside, period. So I heard so many things tonight, and as you were all talking, I was trying to remember the one big point you each said, so I could show you that I was listening. So to Pete Brown, my vision is for Greenfield to be like this all the time. I have seen us rally around really big issues. I feel like we will be rallied around when it comes to the fire station, when it comes to the fairgrounds, when it comes to our downtown and the stores and the businesses like Hawks and Reed who open up to help, or Mesa Verde when they wanted to have a fundraiser for different things. We are more connected every day and every week in this community. And so this has been overwhelming and warm. And I am now working with people who we were enemies in the past, and we were definitely on different political sides. And to see us work together on some project, that's good. So that's my vision, is that we don't have to worry and have all the divisiveness. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, so before we vote, I wanted to say something, that this marks my 8th year on the town council. And I have to say, in my years, I haven't been here as long as some people, but 8 years, it's a road. It's not a short road. And this last year, I'd say this last year and a half, almost a half, it's been one of the most rewarding times, because I really feel we have an evenly split council. And that really lends itself to an incredible amount of debate over issues. And even those among us who consider ourselves political allies are not monolithic in our ideas and our ideologies. And I point this out now because we can do something different than the councils I've served on in the past could ever do, be it a majority progressive council or a majority conservative council. And that's we can finally break the political gridlock and move an economic development package and move funds for the library all at the same time. I feel like if I were sitting on a progressive council like I had in the past, the library would have been passed months ago. And the overlay wouldn't even be a question. It wouldn't be brought up here. And the MDR, that wouldn't be a question either. And we'd be in a winner-takes-all situation, which has happened in the council in the past. But now is our time to do something different, where we can all walk away winners. I don't think we're ever going to get this opportunity again, certainly not with the library, and certainly not with the overlay. The overlay, if it gets voted down tonight, if we don't have 10 votes, it can't come back for a while. And just with the way things are going, my hunch is this chance isn't going to come up again. So my last thing is that I was thinking about this. What I would say is I went for a jog before the meeting, and sometimes I run for time. 40 minutes. I'm going to run for 40 minutes, but I might jog and I might walk, and so long as I'm out there for 40 minutes, it doesn't matter. But sometimes I go for distance, so it's going to be 5 miles. No matter how long it takes, I'm going to get to where I'm going until I get to 5 miles. And it kind of reminds me of where we're at tonight, because when I'm just going for time, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have to push myself. I can run the clock out as slowly as I want to, and I can walk as slowly as I want to. But if I'm going to make it 5 miles, I got to get there by hook or by crook. And when I do that, I find myself in places I never would have been, because I can't stop till I reach my goal, and I don't pre-map these things out. So it's during these runs that I take chances and discover some of the most beautiful routes in Greenfield. And I'm telling you this to say, let's just not run out the clock here tonight. Let's do something big. Let's do something bold. We're never going to get this chance again. Now's the time. Let's go the distance, and let's go big, and then let's finally go home. And I know the saying is let's go big or go home, but we're going to go big, and then we're going to go home. So we're going to take a roll call on this one. Keep in mind, councilors, this takes 10 votes. If anything falls apart, most everything will fall apart. If you are in one of the early precincts and you want to skip over, or one of the later precincts, if you want to skip over and let the vote go and then come back to you because you haven't made up your mind yet, that's just fine. I know it's always daunting to be the first one who has to vote, and I'm lucky. I get to be the last one to vote every time. So with that said, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Sun,
Could you please come back to me?
Councilor Burson,
Yay!
Councilor Alice.
No.
Councilor Pyfrom. No. Councilor Dolan. Yes. Councilor Gilmore. Yes. Councilor Wheeler.
Yes.
Councilor Mayo.
Yes.
Councilor Lanovich.
No.
Councilor Mass.
Yes.
Vice President Ricketts.
Yes.
Councilor Stemple.
Yes.
Councilor Sund.
Yes.
Councilor Renault.
Yes.
You have 10 votes.
Motion carries. Yeah. Yep.
Hold your seats, folks. Here we go.
Councilor Stemple, it's not done yet.
The City Council moved that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the code of the City of Greenfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 200, Section 7.12, Major Development Review as follows. In Section B1, replacing 1,000 with 3,000 and replacing 500 with 1,500. And in Section B4, replacing 100,000 with 150,000 and 15,000 with 30,000. 5,000, and 40,000 with 75,000, and deleting section B5 in its entirety, and in section C, striking 1 and 2 in their entirety and placing with 1, the SPGA shall be the Zoning Board of Appeals. And in section E, striking adversely impact and replace with create a materially adverse impact on. And in section F, adding prior to the words upon the review of the project, the following language, notwithstanding the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, all decisions of the SPGA shall be made within 210 days from the initial date of application. The failure to issue a decision within 210 days shall result in the granting of the special permit as presented, and a constructive grant shall be issued in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A. The provisions of this regulation shall be severable should any section or provision of this regulation be held to be invalid or unenforceable for any reason. This shall not affect the validity or enforceability of any other section or provision of this regulation, and this regulation, exclusive of the invalid or unenforceable section or provision, shall to the full extent consistent with law remain in full force and effect. That is the wrong effect. And further, amend the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it follow the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. A report from committee?
I actually don't remember. I know that it was a majority positive. I also abstained on this. There were 2 abstentions.
Is there discussion about the MDR? Councilor Stemple.
Don't sound so happy.
Oh, no,
Just
sorry.
kidding. I just have questions.
Councilor Stemple.
I just have questions. So maybe those who drafted this can help me understand. So what will the new zoning process look like when this is removed? So what's being taken away and what's being put in its place?
Councilor Mass?
Sorry, what page are we on?
41.
Thank you. I don't walk through it to help. The thresholds for trip counts are increased. The thresholds for square footage are increased. The section that requires major development review for an increase of over 20% is eliminated. The special permit granting authority is made the zoning board of appeals in all cases. A clearer, or arguably clearer, change from adverse impact to a material adverse impact, increasing the threshold of how significant the impact needs to be for a challenge is replaced. What has been called a shot clock is put on for 210 days that allows under the statute, there is a provision that allows for a continuance by mutual agreement. This prohibits that continuance to exceed 210 days. Finally, there's a severability clause that should there be a legal flaw with any portion of the MDR, that portion alone is struck. I don't know if that answered Councilor Stemple's question.
Follow up. More or less, I just want to know, so this is special permitting. So if there's still going to be a planning board process regardless when businesses come to town. But in terms of, I hate to say the word protections, right? Because we want to be business friendly, but in terms of, for lack of a better word, but like we'll say a checkpoint right? So when businesses come in, so in terms of the special permitting to our normal permitting process, what makes those checkpoints one greater than the other, in your opinion?
So major development review allows a much more rigorous process where an impact study needs to be produced by the applicant. Additionally, it allows the city of Greenfield to reject the impact study itself and require the developer to hire consultants of the town's choosing at the expense of the developer. All of the checkpoints, tech review, planning board review, or zoning board of appeals review, depending on the type of use, would continue to stay in force for smaller projects. It's just changing the threshold of those. And it's only changed the zoning board of appeals for those that do go through the special permit process. Those projects that require a special permit anyway would still need to go through a special permit process, but they wouldn't have the impact statement. They wouldn't have that more rigorous review that comes with major development review.
Councilor Stemple?
Questions. And I also want to know where, in some cases, a 300% increase in the numbers came from. What data supports that this is foreseeable, the right increase for the city of Greenfield?
I can answer part of that. So I wrote the first initial draft of this, and it was a process of negotiations, and it seemed as though doubling what I had heard from the planning board is that everybody who went through major development review went through it. And so it seemed as though, so maybe we're shooting too low, and maybe we have to, up the, instead of putting, if everybody's passing it, then maybe the threshold is too low. But this is a compromise, because initially, unless I'm mistaken our conversation, I think Councilor Mass wanted MDR completely gone. Yes, yeah, you did. So instead of doing that, the numbers were tweaked, and it seems if you're going to start somewhere, you start with doubling the numbers. We differed on the numbers for a while until we came to something that seemed manageable. I can't say that this was backed by evidence-based scientific studies. So working with the nurses union, you use those terms a lot. And so I couldn't say that. But also one thing that gives me cause for relief is that on the shot clock language, if a decision isn't reached and that timing is up, the special permit granting authority can always say no. It's not a 210 days, you have to say yes. It's 210 days, unless you mutually agree upon extending it, you can say no too. So to me, that seemed reasonable. But no, I cannot tell you that there was any evidence-based study done on this. Councilor Mass?
Just to answer Councilor Stemple's question, for my part, I've had decades of experience dealing with major development review. There are international engineering traffic studies tables that govern the anticipated usage of particular types of business, and that's where the trip counts come from generally. And to give some comfort to councilors, also you should understand that the way these trip counts work is it's a one-way trip. So if you're going to the store and coming back from the store, that counts as 2 trips.
I think it's
Councilor
well to
Beerson.
understand that.
Councilor Beerson? No, Beers.
I think it's well to understand that this will make us more approachable, because the cost of doing some of these studies, such as the traffic studies, and if you have never lived through 2 traffic experts talking to you about which way the car is going, you've really missed a great time. You really have. So the philosophy behind this is to make us more approachable and also to reduce the cost of presenting your project to the planning board and or zoning board in order to seek a special permit. If I misspoke, okay. Does that help you at all?
Everyone is just so helpful tonight. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor. And, oh, please, if anyone else has.
Any other comments before Councilor Stemple continues? No. Councilor Stemple.
And then I just have a question. So I heard from our colleague, Counselor Alice, about the overlay and his feelings on that. And he mentioned, and I'll quote, the development that we need. And so I think with Mr. Brown's question about our vision, I was just hoping to follow up on what development he thinks that we need.
Councilor Alice?
I was going to speak after you were done anyway, so it's, yeah. So ideally, I actually liked your idea of industrial, but I like mixed use better. Be that as it may, the development that I believe that we need. I met with Mr. Capshaw of VSS, and I took a tour of his plant with Councilor Leonovich about 3 weeks ago. And I got to tell you, it's the first time I've been in that place, and it's serious business. They have, when you talk precision, this place is precision. They're doing things to the 10,000th and 100,000th of an inch when they're machining things. And we think about machinists, well, I shouldn't say that. When I thought about machinists, I'm thinking tap and die. They got oil sprayers spraying oil all over the floor, and there's just, dirty and grungy. These people are computer engineers. They're not machinists for the most part. They're running incredibly highly precision, I use that word, but they are precision instruments that they're running with a computer. And I gotta tell you, I walked in and I'm a smart guy. No, I would not be able to run the machines they were running. So I think you need a good balance of the industrial precision jobs along with the retail jobs, and the service jobs, obviously, but you can be paid as much money as you can be paid for a job. You still want to go now and then to a restaurant, McDonald's, whatever. I'm sure rich people still go to McDonald's. So you need all of those jobs as well as the high-paying jobs of precision machining and the like. So I actually was, when I heard your suggestion about industrial, I liked it. I liked mixed use better, but be that as it may, it is what it is. Getting to the major development review portion of this, this is something that hinders our ability to create large-scale developments. Doesn't matter whether they're commercial, industrial, office, doesn't matter. I've heard that the major development review is not something that a developer would say is a hindrance. We don't hear them say that because they move. They just leave. They say it by moving their businesses to other places. In my district, one of the districts with the least amount of income per household has a place called Dumont. It's been there for a long time. Well, it's not going to be there next year. They are building a multi-million-dollar plant where on Jewett Ave in Deerfield, if anyone knows what Jewett Ave is, it was the pickle factory. And they're currently in construction of a massive plant to move both their precision machine shops from Greenfield and Turner's to Deerfield. We didn't hear about that. I didn't hear about that, and I live across the street until I took that tour of Valley Steel Stamp. Valley Steel Stamp, I guess I'm going to continue. Have I hit my 5 minutes yet?
I waive the time.
Oh, perfect. So we'll be here a while.
Actually,
I'm ju-
I'll start it now.
No, I just one last thing. Valley Steel Stamp expanded quite recently, and it was very difficult for them to expand. They have, and it's not specifically to major development review, but it speaks to the hurdles that it takes to expand or start business in our city. It was a $12 million building, I believe is what he had told me. $12 million building. And they could not connect it to their existing building because they had a drainage ditch running between the two buildings. It's considered a wetland, even though it runs about 200 feet from the edge of the building to the driveway into a pipe underneath and goes out onto their lawn, which they fertilize heavily. We as a city put significant roadblocks in the way of a business that has been here for about 30 years, maybe 40 years, that has gone through developing and growing since they started into what's now probably a $20 million business. So, long story short, I'll take the Dan Gwynn approach. At the end of the day, I'm voting for the MDR, and I'm voting for this because this is the right thing to do. This will spur economic development. There's no question in my mind about that. So, thank you. I'll be quiet now.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Sun,
Yes.
Counselor Burson,
Yes.
Counselor Alice.
Yes.
Counselor Pyfrom. Yes. Counselor Dolan. Yes. Counselor Gilmore. Yes. Counselor Wheeler.
Yes.
Counselor Mayo.
Yes.
Counselor Lanovich.
Yes.
Counselor Mass.
Yes.
Vice President Ricketts.
Yes.
Counselor Stemple. President Renault.
Yes. Motion carries. Councilor Stemple.
The City Council moved that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the code of the City of Greenfield zoning map incorporated into the Greenfield zoning ordinance by section 200-3.2, changing the underlying district of the corridor overlay district defined in section 200-4.16A of this ordinance from general commercial to general industry, and further amend the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it follow the numbering format of the code of the City of Greenfield.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Report from committee.
It was a majority no, with me being the only yes. And I know that this is going to be voted down tonight. And I just wanted to thank my colleagues for starting and triggering the conversation of what the possibilities are for this property and for Greenfield. And I really look forward to, I don't think the zoning conversation's over. And so I really look forward to partnering with my colleagues as the chair of economic development, as well as with the planning board, to really finish the work and look for uses, not just commercial, but also industrial, as well as housing. I think we could see a lot of different and interesting mixed uses, which will bring residents, which we're also seeing a depleting amount, is residencies in Greenfield, as well as industrial, with spiking the growth in commercial as well.
Councilor Dolan?
I just want to say thank you to Councilor Stemple for bringing this forward. This whole compromise process has been difficult for me. I don't necessarily stand on the zoning or the MDR changes on their own merits, but I do believe that the library is important enough to warrant this compromise. I'd like to return to Pete Brown's theme earlier of vision. I have a vision for Greenfield, and Pete, you and I can talk at some point about that. But one of the interesting opportunities that's arisen out of this compromise process is I've spent a lot of time on the French King Highway, and I've looked at it plot by plot and looked at development potential. And I would like to challenge the council as we go forward to have a vision for what we want, not only of the town in general, but also for that corridor. What kinds of development are appropriate? What kinds of jobs do we want to attract? Which areas need to be preserved for which reasons, and how can we make that happen in the long term, not just by having an overlay that prevents fast food and gas stations. So I'm still developing that vision, but I am hoping that we can continue to look at the zoning through processes that are already in place with the planning board, and really use this as an opportunity to develop in accordance with the values of the community.
Councilor Mass?
Councilor Semple, I want to thank you for bringing this forward too. While I can't support it because it eliminates the use of commercial along that zone, I agree with you that we need more industrial land in Greenfield. Limited industrial is currently allowed in that district, but we need more space for medium and heavy industrial. And I agree with both you and Councilor Dolan about the idea of downzoning and creating more opportunity across the board. And I'm open to working with any member of this council towards those ends. And I really want to applaud Councilor Dolan as well for taking a step, or at least talking about taking a step towards what I don't often hear in this community. I often hear a lot of people say, we don't want that, we don't want this, but they don't do anything to attract the things that they do want and to bring things to town in replace of it. When I think about my vision for Greenfield, it is that the marketplace decides. That I am not omniscient, I'm not the emperor of the world, I am not the person who gets to decide where everyone buys their underwear. I leave it to the marketplace to decide and get out of the way so that we can have enough development in this town based on what the people in this town want, so that we can pay for our schools, our police officers, our roads, our bridges, and our teachers.
Any other discussion? Councilor Leonovich?
I'd just like to piggyback on what was just spoken of by both Councilor Dolan and Councilor Mass. I think that we as Greenfield are inherently attractive. We are strategically located on two major highways. People want to come here. I think we have to work on stopping the development from coming in, to lower the impedances of those who are trying to come here, those who are trying to expand their businesses and grow, and allow that to take place. Councilor Mass is right. We need the free market to take care of this, and we are an appealing place to be. People want to be here. We're in a great location. The people here are wonderful people. All this is attraction for people from, like Brickett was, Councilor Alice was saying, you look at Valley Steel Stamp, they're attracting employees from as far away as Orange. So people are commuting to get to the work that's here because Greenfield's a great place to be. We need to allow the people that are building businesses or starting business here to do that with as little impedance as possible, reasonably. But things like the MDR change, I think, are going to be a benefit to us in the long run. We need to just foment that and grow that. We are a wonderful place to be.
Councilor Sun?
I'd like to see Greenfield like it was in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 50s. Well, 50 to 70s, where there was everything in Greenfield. Shops, stores, and so it'd be more welcome because everybody was able to get a job no matter what it was. From delivering papers to working in a Milledge Falls tool or working in a store. It was open for everything. And I just think it's about time that we went back and welcomed all businesses instead of just a few.
Thank you. Any other discussion? And so long as some of my fellow councilors have shared their vision, a portion, and so long as we're talking about industrial land and building industry, is that a vision that I hold, and I know I'm not alone, is that we create incentives for industrial businesses and commercial businesses that will be cooperatively owned. And we create tax incentives for that because I do think that is a way of the future. So I want to throw that out. We ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, clerk will call the roll, and this is for the zoning industrial.
Counselor Sun,
No.
Counselor Burson,
No.
Counselor Alice.
No.
Counselor Pyfrom. No. Counselor Dolan.
No.
Counselor Gilmore. No. Counselor Wheeler.
No.
Counselor Mayo.
No.
Counselor Linovich.
No.
Counselor Mass. No. Vice President Ricketts. No. Counselor Stemple.
Yes.
Does President wish to vote?
No.
It does not pass.
Motion fails. Counselor Wheeler?
The City Council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council take from the table order number FY19-050, the sum of $19,541,296 be appropriated for the construction of a new public library, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $19,541,296 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(3), or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects, which was tabled at the December 19th, 2018 City Council meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and this is just to take it from the table. This isn't whether or not you're voting for the library funds, so we could do a roll call vote.
Counselor Sun,
Yes.
Counselor Burson,
Yes.
Counselor Alice.
Yes.
Counselor Pyfrom. No. Counselor Dolan.
Yes.
Counselor Gilmore.
Yes.
Counselor Wheeler.
Yep.
Counselor Mayo.
Yes.
Counselor Linovich.
Yes.
Counselor Mass.
Yes.
Vice President Ricketts. Yes. Counselor Stemple.
Yes.
Yes. It passes and it is taken off the table. Councilor Wheeler, you can read the motion again, but you don't have to. No, don't do it.
That was easy.
So, So this is the library. Is there any discussion? Councilor Dolan?
I feel it's incumbent upon me to just thank everyone who has come out tonight. I've never been at a council meeting where we didn't have space for everyone in this room, and I've never been at a council meeting where this many people have stayed to the bitter end. So all of you, including the people who are outside, the people in the auditorium, thank you so much for coming and raising your voices for this issue.
Any other discussion? Councilor Mass?
I've done some research in preparing for tonight's meeting, and I was asked to try to convince my conservative colleagues to come along with this compromise, and I do this in the spirit of doing that, but also those people who are at home watching TV who might be fiscal conservatives who are worried about the cost of the library and the ability, and to encourage fundraising for the rest of the library. I am a conservative. I consider myself a Reagan conservative. Ronald Reagan said, "When I began entering the give and take of legislative bargaining in Sacramento, a lot of the most radical conservatives who had supported me during the election didn't like it. Compromise was a dirty word to them, and they wouldn't face the fact that we couldn't get all of what we wanted today. They wanted it all or nothing, and they wanted it all at once, and if they didn't get it all, some said, don't take anything. I learned while negotiating union contracts that you seldom get everything you ask for. If you get 75 or 80% of what you're asking for, I say take it and fight for the rest later, and that's what I told those radical conservatives who never got used to it. Today, we conservatives have gotten 75 to 80% of what we wanted on development. We have made gains that have evaded us for 30 years. Now we must address the other side of the equation, the building of a library and the resulting tax increases. Governor, now Senator Mitt Romney, said the biggest source of getting the country to a balanced budget is not by raising taxes or by cutting spending. It is by encouraging growth of the economy. I believe that's what we've done for our city this day by passing these zoning changes. That doesn't mean there won't be tax consequences to build the library at this time, and I'm sympathetic to my colleagues who say that the time for these zoning changes was 2 years ago or 20 years ago. However, I urge my colleagues to listen to the sage admonition of Socrates, who said that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new. As to the burden of taxes, I do not take them lightly. We all know the old adage from Ben Franklin that nothing is to be more certain than death and taxes. Much like our current and former finance directors, that spending is inevitable and we must choose between capital spending or labor increases. While I don't subscribe to the certainty of future spending, I'm practical enough to look at the political winds and believe in the likeliness of it. It reminds me of another Franklin quote on taxes. Friends and neighbors complain that taxes are indeed very heavy. If those laid on by government were the only ones we had to pay, we might more easily discharge them. But we have many others, and much more grievous to some of us. We are taxed twice as much by our idleness, 3 times as much by our pride, 4 times as much by our folly. I personally do not wish, because of my pride or my folly, to do nothing and get nothing in return. As I consider the need for the new library, I consider the benefit it provides to those very people who are taxed. Conservative publisher Malcolm Forbes wrote that the richest person in the world, in fact, all the riches of the world, could not provide you with anything like the endless, incredible loot available at your local library. You can measure the awareness, the breadth, and wisdom of a civilization, a nation, a people, by the priority given to preserving these repositories of all that we are, all that we were, or will be. Indeed, First Lady Laura Bush agreed, saying libraries are the community treasure chests, loaded with a wealth of information available to everyone equally. The key to that treasure chest is the library card. I have found the most valuable thing in my wallet is my library card. In pure dollars and cents, this project has value for everyone in our community. To my colleagues who say, today's compromise is gone tomorrow and our colleagues cannot be trusted to stand by their bargain, I quote the words of the author Victor Hugo. A library implies an act of faith. In the end, as I examine my faith, I must agree with the 19th century Congregationalist clergyman Henry Ward Beecher, who wrote, "A library is not a luxury, but one of life's necessities." Most of all, it is a necessity for our children. United States Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas wrote that as a child, I would walk into the Carnegie Library and I would see the pictures of Booker T and the pictures of Frederick Douglass, and I would read. I would go to the Savannah Public Libraries in the stacks and see all of the newspapers from all over the country. Did I dream that I'd be on the Supreme Court? No, but I dreamt that there was a world out there that was worth pursuing. I want my children and all the children of Greenfield to know that there's a world out there worth pursuing. And that is why today I will vote for the library, and I ask my fellow conservatives to do the same. Thank you.
Councilor Sun?
Now, a long time ago, when this was first brought up, I put a challenge out there for people to show how much they wanted the library, to come up with the money, because a lot of us taxpayers can't afford to pay for it. Now, I still challenge everybody out there to come up with the money so the low-income taxpayers don't have to absorb the extra taxes that are going to be put to them because of this. Now, there's a lot of people that are for the library. There's a few that can't afford the library. And this library's for everybody, my grandkids as well as some other grandkids. Now, like I said, there's a lot of people that have come forward and donated stuff, some money. But now it's up to the rest of the people to come forward and put their money on the table. Because the people that have worked for this library, some of them probably can't afford it, but they'd love to have it come to fruition. So now it's up to you people throughout this town to stand up and make it known that you that want this library are willing to support it from your wallet to the library's wallet.
Any other discussion? Councilor Gilmore?
I know the Councilor Sund is very concerned about taxpayers and how much this costs. And I have to say, I'm in the same situation. I have 2 jobs and I have 3 kids. I live paycheck to paycheck. It is really difficult. But I think that having the library is so much more important than some of these other projects that I'm sorry. My concern is that we can't grow our economy and help the taxpayers by just cutting expenses all the time. We're not going to cut our way into prosperity. I think that by having a library, we're showing businesses everywhere that we're willing to invest in ourselves and that we're worth that investment. Because if we can't do this for ourselves, then why are they going to come in here and do anything for us? I think it's symbolic in that regard, but I also think that it's good for the social aspect of it. I'm worried about accessibility. I'm worried about low-income children having the books and DVDs and all those things that are available at the library. And while I agree with you that it is very difficult to afford it, I just want you to understand that there's another way of looking at it, and this is going to be an investment in ourselves.
Councilor Burson.
Thank you. It shows you really are a learner. People complaining about paying taxes when they don't get value. And that's what I hear all the time, you know. And I think this is tremendous, tremendous value. And for that reason, again, I urge my colleagues to unanimously support this. I want a library that the word AI means something. I want a library that understands what coding is And that's not Morse code I'm talking about. So this is the future. It really is. It will be, hopefully, a focal point for the future and the development of knowledge, which I believe in the last analysis is going to drive every economy in the world, not just this one. So I think this is a great deal.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Pyfrom.
Thank you. I just would like to say thank you to everybody that's been coming out and showing your support for the library. I've never felt, sitting on this council, in a tug of war. I felt like my vote, my decisions were for the right reason. A library, yes, would be nice. Right now, I'm not really 100% sure that right now would be the best time, although we have a grant, and that's what I've been hearing. I've been tugged and pulled on, why and why not, and it's very difficult to make a decision up here, whether it be yes or no. There's also people in town that really believe in their heart that no, now is not the time, they do not want this. Some people don't like to hear no, but sometimes no is no. I was a library brat most of my life. I don't want to make this personal, but I've been in the library. I love the library. Yes, it does need some fixing up. We all know that. I've seen that. Working with some of it, I think we need money for other projects. The fire station, I asked the mayor earlier today if any constituents, had any complaints about the location on Rydell Street. And he said no, he didn't have any. So that's a little more positive. But I think right now I've been hearing mostly that we need the fire station. We need the public safety. So that's another thing that's, that tears me apart aside from the library. I was a no in 2017. We didn't have a place for the fire station then. We don't really have a solid ground right now. It's not even a yes, it's a potential place. We haven't heard where all the money was coming from, the total cost. I believe that cost will probably rise. Me personally, I think it's great with everybody's vote, how they feel for the library, great. But I'm just not ready to vote for the library. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. That's how I feel.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Vice President Ricketts and then Councilor Alice.
Yeah, good choice. I am already anticipating what our downtown is going to look like with the new library, because right now, on a Saturday, if you've ever been down to Farmers Market, and then you see and you hear the kids at breakfast at Brad's, and they're like, we get to go to the library, right? Before they go to the Y, so that they can take their Y classes. It's just so bustling those Saturday mornings. And with a new library, I just imagine the increase. And I'm already happy that we have a parking garage. Like, it all works together. But see, what would Brad's do? What would the Garden Theater do? Or even the Y without the library? Because they really do go hand in hand on days. For me, I was a single mother, and I will make it personal because I am who I am. So when I worked late and my kids went home, they got on their bikes and rode to the library and locked them up, and they'd also go to the YMCA. I know in today's world, you just can't do that, but that's how I had to bring my children up because I needed to work. But what safer places were there than the YMCA and the library to be at? and to go to the Garden Theater was just an extra bonus, and that was a big deal. So for many people, going downtown is not a big deal. But if you could see the families and you could hear, that's how I decide that I'm going to vote. And also, I'm not giving back $9 million. When somebody recognizes Greenfield and willing to give that much money, I'm happy. Look at what we've done with our high school. And even the courthouse and the jail and things that you may not use, and I hope you never have to, but we're the county seat. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is not about just Greenfield. Everything that goes on and all of our decisions really impact the county. And so I have to look at it like that. I know it's not all the county that's paying the taxes, but you better believe Wilson's and the Garden and the restaurants downtown are all doing well because of all the people in this county who come here. So when you think about this library, you think about that that's a haven for some kids after school. You think about people like myself who need to use a computer and do my best to go in there. And they help me. It's hard. But it doesn't matter. They are truly there for everyone. I am proud and honored to vote yes, and I am proud to be part of this historic day for the library and for the zoning.
Thank you, Madam President. I've been on this council for a long time, as you all know. My heart's in Greenfield. Was born here, was raised here. Went to school here, both public and private schools in Greenfield. And this vote is probably the most difficult vote that has come before the council while I've been sitting on it. And I've been called, obstructionist, and I just hate the library. I don't want a library. And all of that is completely untrue. I've been asked, I heard that you've supported the library in the past, so why aren't you supporting it now? I don't not support the library. It's funny that we talk about information and the fact that the library gives us information, and that's where you can go to get your information. And when I asked unpopular questions about finances, I was essentially denied the information and had to find it myself, which I did because I'm someone who likes to have the knowledge, get the knowledge, find the knowledge, get the answers to the questions that I have. And it's no surprise, not no surprise. It's no surprise to anybody. It's no surprise to anybody that the information has changed significantly over and over and over, and that's why I hadn't been talking about the information, because as I asked questions to formulate the opinion of the information, it continually changed, and I was always wanting to be able to provide the information, whether the information is favorable to this or favorable to that. I wanted the correct information, and I wanted to know what it was going to be so I could tell people this is what it's going to be. I couldn't say, no, we shouldn't have a library, because I didn't know whether we should or shouldn't. So I believe at this point that I have the information I was looking for, and I wanted to share it. Not because I'm trying to change anyone's mind, because that's not what I'm looking to do. But I think the public deserves to know what the actual information is in regards to this, because I can count the noses. This is passing. I think everyone in the audience can count noses as well. And the budget and the increases as stated in the financial statement are tenuous at best. So what I did, and I will say that what I did was I went back 10 years, and I took an average increase year over year for the last 10 years in every category that is used in the budget to set a tax rate, to figure out your growth, everything else. And then I took those averages and I placed them out 20 years. And I used figures that are the actual averages with one exception. I did not increase the value of the real property that can be taxed more than 1% a year. And we all know that that's low. In 2028, just after the borrowings are concluded and we see them on our debt chart, we would, without anything else changing, without any significant, and by significant I mean in the $20-30 million range of new taxable value, we will be dangerously close or at our $25 per thousand tax rate, using the past numbers and using the average of the past numbers. So logically, that's what I did. Now, if we have an influx, a significant influx of revenue, that changes things. However, over the last 10 years, our revenue has only increased 2.41% a year. And I don't see that changing drastically. I hope that it does, because I hope that this is completely wrong. This project is wonderful for Greenfield. I think that a library is a wonderful asset that we can have. But one thing that I believe we all need to keep in our minds is we have lots of very, very expensive things coming down the pike very, very soon. We just did not meet our consent order with the DEP for our sewer system and our water system, for our inflow and infiltration that comes into our sewer system. It's tens of millions of dollars. And if the DEP and the EPA decided tomorrow that they wanted us to fix it, they could force us to do that. They don't care. They don't care what it costs. This whole picture, as has been stated, pushes us very close to where we as a city, through our policies, have said we should be in our debt. And our debt will almost double between now and 2025 to 83 million and change from 43 million today. And that 43 from today is a 72% increase from 10 years ago at 25 million. So if we think that we are going to that there aren't going to be other things that come up in 5 years that are going to add on to this, that would be a poor thing to be thinking, because there's going to be other stuff that comes up. So, finally, I just want the residents to know that I believe, and only time will tell whether it's correct or not, that it will cost about $100 a year. Each year, your taxes will likely increase $100 going forward. And then when we hit that max of 25 per thousand, we may very well have to do a 2.5 override to fund the operating budget, just based on the 2% increase that was provided to us in our paperwork. I just think it's important for people to know that. It's not something that people want to think about. It's not something that I think anyone is as excited about as I am when it comes to numbers, because I do these because I want to know what the true impact is going to be. I think when we talk about a library being the place for information, well, I think we're the place for information when it comes to what things are really going to cost and how we're going to afford them. So I wanted that information out there, and I hope I haven't bored everybody, but did she say I am? My apologies. Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the ability to speak and the time that you have allowed me to speak.
Oh, of course, yes, thank you. Councilor Alice, it's important information. I appreciate you sharing it. I have something to say a little bit different, on a little bit of a different trajectory. That along the lines of what Councilor Mass was saying, that most folks know that I'm a union organizer and a contract negotiator, among other things. And President Reagan, I can't believe I'm saying this, but he was right.
Motion to adjourn.
As was Tip O'Neill. And compromise is the way that you get to yes. I'm sure a lot of us have read that book, Getting to Yes. And I think that the compromise we've made tonight, if the library passes, is it's one that makes sense. I think sometimes even in union negotiations there are compromises that don't seem to correlate. There was a year that the Boston firefighters would not agree to drug testing unless there was a significant wage increase, which got challenged, and it was very controversial. And you might ask yourself, what does a random drug testing have to do with a wage increase? And that's something that I see a little bit like this, not exactly related. Usually negotiations are over things that are directly related, like if your health insurance costs are going up, then you should get a cost of living that in some way meets that increased cost that you have to pay in health insurance. And I think by and large the hope here is that the economic development package, as I like to call it, that we've passed here tonight will mitigate the concerns about the increases in taxes, as well as other activities that the library will spur, as well as the incoming recreational marijuana that we have coming to town. And I'd also like to address Councilor Sund by saying nurses have appreciated your support in the past. You've been very supportive, Councilor Sund, and nurses are by and large the first in their families to go to college and realize the importance of a library. And so the good nurses of the Massachusetts Nurses Association at Bay State Franklin Medical Center have pledged $10,000 to the library and are challenging other unions, like the Massachusetts Teachers Association, United Food and Commercial Workers, Stop and Shop, Franklin County Co-op, to also do the same, and that the fundraising won't start, and that union workers understand the importance of the library. And so we do challenge everybody to meet that $10,000. So thank you for reminding me about that. Oh. Oh. Any other discussion? I'm going to go to Councilor Mayo first, and then Councilor Stemple, and then Councilor Burson.
So, I've heard a couple of people say that they want to make their stories personal, and I want to add to that is, I learned to read at the Greenfield Public Library. When my mother, we grew up in Greenfield, when my mother told us 4 kids to get out of her hair, it usually meant to go down to Main Street and find ourselves at the library. So I can still remember the first book I picked out of or checked out of the library. It was called the Stories of the FBI. And basically it told the stories of how they got Maul Barker and how they got John Dillinger and the weapons they used and the things of that nature. And they had a lot of pictures and interesting stories to go along. And I remember they had a whole slew of books that I had to choose from in the children's room, and I just cannot say enough good things about what I got out of the library and the number of hours I spent at the library, and that I would urge everyone in this room to consider what they've taken out of the library and what they've put into the library as well. Thank you.
Councilor Stemple. And then Councilor Burson.
I'm not going to make this personal at all. I'm going to stick to economic development because that's what I like. I just wanted to echo what you were saying, President Renaud, that previously you called the other side of the compromise. I actually liked Councilor Burson's calling it of a settlement better. That was more relatable for me. But both sides are economic development. I spoke to both the town administrators of Athol and South Hadley, and they had qualitative evidence that their library had sparked economic development in their communities, which, as they called themselves in South Hadley, mostly a bedroom community. We have something that those communities don't, is that we have a burgeoning community during the day because we do have jobs. I think we always, and I'm guilty of this too, forget how much industry and how many good jobs we do have here in Greenfield, that our population grows during the work week and during the work day. And so now I like to think that we're on the road to giving the county and all those outside of the county who visit Greenfield every day to go to work or shopping more options, whether that's a new library or once we finish the zoning that we triggered by this conversation, even further options for whether that be industrial, commercial, and I'd like to think about the housing options too. So I'm very excited by this and the compliments to the vision, not only set forth by our master plan, but by clearly our residents who are here tonight.
Councilor Burson.
Optimistic way. I see this train coming from the east and west, from Boston to Greenfield every day. It's only comes once a day, but perhaps it'll come twice a day and 3 times a day, and it'll begin to open up the west to the east, which is what we really need, in the sense that the demography here needs people. It needs new people. And that's not saying that we don't have a great town and a great population, but we need new people. We need young families, and I think the fact that we have housing here that is very, very competitive for a lot of folks, I hope that will bring new people and new families, and the fact that we will have this library will make a statement, and hopefully Councilor Alice's prediction of this financial difficulty will not come about. I don't know what it is going to be in 2025, but I hope this high school will grow. This asset will be maximized. I hope that there will be, as again, a knowledge economy here. I hope the college will even offer more courses and perhaps have liaisons with different schools. My fantasy would be that the liaison would be with something like MIT and Northeastern. But be that as it may, I think that this is a hallelujah day for us, in terms of this structure and this commitment. We are saying who we are, and we're for the future.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, no, you can't go to the bathroom. We're voting now. So, without further ado, the clerk will call the roll. Then you can go to the bathroom. Oh, I thought you said
I was going to call the question. I don't have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay.
Whoa, way to blow her up like that.
I know, I'm sorry.
Counselor Sund? No. Counselor Burson?
Yes.
Counselor Alice? Counselor Pyfrom?
No.
Counselor Dolan?
Emphatically, yes.
Counselor Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Wheeler?
Yes.
Counselor Mayo?
Couldn't be more, but yes.
Counselor Linovich?
No.
Counselor Mass?
Yes.
Vice President Ricketts?
Amen. Yes.
Counselor Stemple?
Yes.
Counselor Alice? President Renault?
Yes.
Madam President, you have 9 votes.
Motion passes. Okay, if you could all, we have not adjourned yet. If you could all just hang on a little bit. We have a couple more presentation of petitions and similar papers. Report of committees, I think we can skip tonight. Unfinished business. Old business. New business. Counselor Alice?
I just wanted to say that
Do you
for the
want me
people who
to,
are,
Counselor Alice, you want me to?
yeah,
Could everybody order in the council meeting? We're not done.
so for the people who are watching at home, and since we have a ton of people here, I wanted to say that on April 10th at the People's Pint, the Fair Association is doing a fundraiser to help raise funds for the $500,000 bill that they have to repair the landslide to their backside of the fairgrounds. Yeah. Okay, on April 10th at the People's Pint, there is a fundraiser put on by the Franklin County Agricultural Society for the fairgrounds to help raise money to pay the $500,000 bill that they have for a landslide that is affecting some homes below the fairgrounds. Well, it's going out over the TV, so they'll hear it. So I would hope that anyone who is available or able or wanted to contact the FCAS to send a donation. The fair has been a staple of the community for many, many, many years. And they are unfortunately unable to get funding or loans to make the repairs that are necessary. So they have to fundraise all of the money for the landslide. So that is 7 o'clock, People's Pint, April 10th. Just wanted to put the plug in for the Franklin County Agricultural Society.
Thank you. Old business? Councilor Mass?
Councilor Reno, first of all, I just want to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues who worked on this project tonight, this compromise. I hope it really does build a spirit of unity and cooperation going forward. I don't think anyone was 100% happy or 100% upset, and I think that's the way to go. I really want to especially thank President Reno, who worked on this with me. I also want to take this opportunity to mention a couple of community leaders who I think really made a difference in pulling people together to get Councilor Reno and I together, but as well as the community. Former Councilor David Singer was incredibly instrumental. Thank you, former Councilor Singer. Our assessor, Joe Regari, did an amazing job. Ed Berlin, wherever he is probably out congratulating people in the back. And well, I didn't see him here tonight. He was texting me right up till the meeting. Andrew Colleen from the Zoning Board of Appeals. They all did an amazing job. Thank you.
And Councilor Mass, the feeling is mutual. Thank you.
And Ginny DeRozier from the Planning Board.
Oh, Ginny, yes. Councilor Mass, thank you too for approaching me. This was your idea. So. Thanks. But it was a great idea. New business. Motions for reconsideration? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's been adjourned.
All of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.